Golden light bled through the skyline of São Paulo, spilling across the mirrored towers of Faria Lima. Inside one of them, where the air smelled of money and marble, Lucas Ferraz ended his final meeting of the day. The deal was done. Another merger, another victory. His assistants trailed behind like shadows as he adjusted his cufflinks, every motion smooth, deliberate, rehearsed. The world bent around his will. It always had. He stepped into the vast lobby, a cathedral of glass and silence, where every footstep echoed his success. Outside, humidity clung to the city like a fever, but here it was cold, sterile, controlled. Lucas liked it that way. His life was measured in contracts and confidence, never in doubts. But that certainty fractured when a small voice, fragile yet sharp as glass, stopped him mid-stride. "Senor, don't get in the car." Lucas turned, annoyance flickering before curiosity took over. Standing near the revolving doors was a little girl, maybe 7, her small hands clasped nervously. Her dress, a simple green cotton one, looked out of place amid the steel and suits. Tight braids framed her face and her dark eyes locked onto his with unsettling intensity. "What did you say?" Lucas asked, lowering his voice. The girl swallowed, her chin trembling but her eyes didn't waver. "I heard them, the men in black suits. They said your car will explode when you start it." For a second, her words hung in the air like smoke. Lucas frowned. "Explode?" She nodded quickly. They were talking in Chinese. They said car, boss, and boom. Lucas blinked. Chinese, his security detail. Impossible. Yet, a flicker of unease coiled in his gut. He had picked up basic Mandarin through years of international business, enough to recognize fragments. If she was right, the words she mentioned fit perfectly. He turned slightly, glancing across the lobby. 4 of his bodyguards stood near the exit, chatting quietly, hands folded before them. The same faces that had escorted him for years, that he trusted with his life. But now, under the sterile fluorescent light, something in their posture felt wrong. They weren't relaxed. They were waiting. The girl's voice trembled again. "Please don't go. They're pretending everything's normal." Lucas stepped closer, his towering presence softening as he looked down at her. "How do you understand Chinese?" "My grandma teaches me," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "She says words can save people if you listen close." Something in that answer froze him more than the air conditioning ever could. This wasn't a prank. The sincerity in her eyes was too raw, too certain. "Stay here," he murmured, scanning the lobby again. His pulse quickened. Years of corporate cunning had sharpened his instincts, and every one of them screamed danger. He leaned down, his voice now edged with urgency. "If you're right, little one, you just saved my life." But neither of them knew. She'd just saved far more than that. Lucas stood frozen, the world around him shrinking to the sound of his own heartbeat. The little girl's warning echoed in his head like a ticking clock. His hand hovered near his phone, but he didn't call security. Something told him not to. He took a slow breath, eyes locked on the 4 men by the glass doors. His trusted guards, the ones who had been with him through trips, meetings, and private flights. Yet now he saw their side glances, the stiffness in their stance. One of them, the tallest, was watching him through the reflection in the glass wall. "Stay calm," Lucas whispered to himself. The girl, standing near the marble column, clutched her small hands together. Her voice trembled. "They saw me talking to you." His chest tightened. If she was right, then she wasn't just brave. She was in danger. He leaned down slightly, keeping his tone soft but urgent. "Listen carefully. Don't move from here. No matter what happens, stay behind the pillar. Understand?" She nodded. Lucas straightened and pressed his earpiece. "Rafa, bring Marco to the lobby now," he said, naming his personal chief of security, a man he'd trusted for 2 decades. His voice was even, calm. But inside, a storm brewed. Marco arrived within seconds, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. Lucas leaned close, his words low and measured. "Routine check on the car." Quietly. Marco's eyes flicked to the guards, then to the car idling outside. He nodded once and walked toward it. The guards exchanged glances. The tall one muttered something under his breath, in Chinese. Lucas didn't understand every word, but he caught one. Quickly. He swallowed hard. His instincts screamed. The tension in the lobby was thick enough to choke on. The girl's eyes met his again, wide and unblinking. Then, from across the polished floor, Marco looked back at him and did something Lucas had never seen him do before. He ran a thumb slowly across his throat. Code red. The air cracked open. Lucas's pulse surged. He grabbed the little girl's hand. "Run!" The guards moved instantly, shouting something in Mandarin, reaching under their jackets. Marco yelled from the doorway, "There's a bomb under the car! Step back!" Chaos erupted. Shouts, scrambling footsteps, the metallic echo of guns clearing holsters. The receptionist screamed and ducked behind the desk. Lucas pulled the girl behind a column as one of the traitors barked orders, pretending to take control. "Everyone stay calm." His voice wavered. His mask was gone. Marco charged forward with 2 backup agents, guns drawn. "Drop it," he shouted. The traitors froze, cornered by their own failure. Lucas held the girl tightly, feeling her tiny heartbeat against his palm. Her voice trembled but steady. "I told you, sir." He looked down at her, this small, fearless child, and for the first time in years, the billionaire felt something stronger than fear, gratitude. But it wasn't over yet. One of the men hissed something in Chinese, and Lila whispered, "He said it's not finished. Someone else will come." The nightmare had only begun. The sirens wailed in the distance, echoing off the glass towers of São Paulo, but inside the lobby, silence pressed down like a weight. The 4 men who had once stood as Lucas's protectors were now kneeling on the marble floor, wrists zip-tied, heads bowed. Their faces were unreadable. No panic, no remorse. Just a cold, eerie calm. Marco stood guard, his gun lowered but his expression sharp as steel. "The bomb's real," he said quietly. "They wired it to the ignition. One turn of the key, and you would have been gone before the news cameras even arrived." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, the tremor in his fingers betraying the fear he refused to show. He turned toward the little girl. She stood silently near the wall, her green dress catching the faint glow of the setting sun. Her face was calm, but her eyes, those deep, knowing eyes, watched everything. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lena," she said. "Lena," he repeated, almost to himself. "You just saved my life." She shrugged gently, her small shoulders rising and falling. "My grandma says when you hear bad people whisper, you have to speak. If you don't, you help them without knowing." Her words cut through the air sharper than any boardroom insult Lucas had ever delivered. He looked back at the captured men, his own bodyguards, men he had trusted with his life. Betrayal burned in his chest like fire. Marco's radio crackled. "Police en route. ETA 5 minutes," came the voice on the other end. Lucas exhaled slowly, his voice low but steady. "Interrogate them before the police arrive. I want to know who paid for this." Marco nodded and motioned to one of his men. But before the questioning could start, one of the traitors, the tall one with the square jaw, lifted his head. His smile was thin, mocking. "You think you're safe now?" He sneered in accented Portuguese. "You have no idea how deep this goes." Lucas's jaw clenched. "Then start explaining." The man laughed, cold, bitter, fearless. "The order didn't come from money. It came from revenge. You destroyed a family in Shanghai 5 years ago. A deal that left hundreds jobless. You forgot, but they didn't." Lena frowned. "He's lying," she said quietly. Lucas turned to her. "How do you know?" "He said in Chinese that they already finished what they came for," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That someone else is waiting." Marco froze. "What?" Suddenly the lobby lights flickered. A shiver passed through the air. Outside, a black motorcycle pulled up to the curb, the rider's face hidden behind a tinted helmet. Marco raised his weapon. "Everyone down!" Lena gasped and grabbed Lucas's hand again, pulling him toward the far exit. He followed without hesitation this time, his instincts overridden by something purer, trust in her. The motorcycle engine revved once, then went silent. Lucas's heart thundered in his chest as he whispered to Marco, "Find out who sent them. I want the truth before the sun rises." But even as he said it, deep inside, he knew this wasn't the end. Someone powerful wanted him erased, and somehow, this brave little girl was the reason he was still breathing. The night fell over São Paulo like a velvet curtain, the city lights flickering through the glass facade of Lucas's tower. Police cars lined the street below, their red and blue glow painting chaos onto the calm of corporate luxury. Yet inside, Lucas's private office felt frozen, every second stretching thin with dread and unanswered questions. Marco stood beside him, a phone pressed to his ear. "Bomb squad confirmed it," he said finally, his voice grim. "It was military grade, sir. Whoever did this wasn't sending a warning. They wanted you gone, clean and fast." Lucas stared out the window, watching the city that had crowned him king of finance now turn into a chessboard of betrayal. "Then find out who gave the order," he murmured. Marco's gaze softened slightly. "We're working on it, but—" "She's the reason you're alive." Lucas turned. Lena was sitting on a leather chair near the door, legs dangling, holding a steaming cup of cocoa Marco had found for her. Despite everything, she looked calm, almost too calm for a child who had seen armed men and bombs. He walked over, crouching down to meet her eyes. "Lena, do you remember exactly what they said in Chinese?" "Every word matters," she nodded, her small voice steady. "They said something like, 'Tonight we close the account. The boss will see fireworks.' And then the tall one said, 'After this, the girl goes too.'" Lucas's stomach dropped. "The girl goes too," he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Marco's hand went to his weapon automatically. "That means she's a target." Lena blinked, her lips tightening. "I don't care," she said. "I just didn't want anyone to die." Lucas felt something shift inside him, an unfamiliar ache. This wasn't business. This was human. "You're brave," he said quietly. "But bravery shouldn't have to come from fear." Marco's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and handed it to Lucas. "You need to see this." On the display was a photo, grainy, taken from a surveillance camera. A man on a motorcycle, helmet off, revealing a scar along his cheek. Lucas's eyes narrowed. "I know him. Who is he?" Marco asked. "Chen Wei, former partner in a Shanghai logistics deal. I shut down his company after a corruption scandal. He lost everything." Lena looked up. "He's the one they talked about. The boss. I heard his name." Marco swore under his breath. "So it's personal. He's hunting you." Lucas straightened, his jaw set. "Then we stop running." He looked down at Lena. "And we protect her." For the first time that night, Lena's tough expression faltered. "But where will I go?" Lucas knelt, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "With me. You saved my life. Now it's my turn to save yours." Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline. The city pulsed with danger. Unseen eyes, hidden motives, old debts resurfacing, and as the first drops of rain hit the glass, Lucas whispered, "They thought I was alone. They were wrong. The game had changed. And now, the billionaire was playing for something more than money. He was playing for redemption." Rain poured over the city, washing neon lights into rivers across the pavement. Lucas sat in the back of an unmarked SUV, its windows tinted, its route unpredictable. Beside him, Lena slept with her head resting against his arm, exhaustion finally winning after the chaos of the day. Her small frame looked fragile, but he knew better. That girl had the courage of a soldier. Marco drove in silence, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds. "We're going off-grid," he said. "Safe house in Serra Negra. No signals, no trackers. Chen Wei's people won't find you there." Lucas nodded but didn't answer. His mind raced with images. The bomb, the traitors, the sound of Lena's voice. He wasn't used to being hunted. He was the hunter, the deal-maker, the one who dictated terms. Now, he was the target of a vendetta buried under years of business empires and broken partnerships. When they reached the countryside, fog blanketed the hills. The safe house looked like nothing, a small farmhouse swallowed by forest. Inside, Marco swept the rooms for devices, then handed Lucas a satellite phone. "Only this line's secure. I've got 2 men watching the perimeter." Lucas glanced toward Lena, now wrapped in a blanket on the couch. She stirred, whispering something in her sleep, Mandarin words, half-formed, but enough to make his pulse quicken. He recognized one, Zhao Hui, revenge. He leaned closer. "What did she say?" Marco frowned. "She's dreaming. But that word, she must have heard it from them." Lucas's eyes darkened. "Then they're still coming." An hour later, while Marco monitored encrypted feeds from a laptop, Lucas made a call to an old contact, an intelligence broker in Hong Kong named May. "I need a name," he said. "Chen Wei's network, who's backing him?" Her voice came filtered through static. "You won't like the answer. Chen was ruined, yes, but someone bigger funded his revenge. Someone inside your own corporate board, Lucas. They want you erased to take control of your empire." Lucas's blood ran cold. Betrayal had roots deeper than he'd thought. He looked at Lena, then back at Marco. So it wasn't just revenge. It's a takeover. Before May could say more, the line went dead, cut clean. Marco slammed the laptop shut. "They found us." The sound of engines echoed in the distance. Motorcycles. Headlights cut through the mist, slicing toward the farmhouse. Lucas moved fast, shaking Lena awake. "Time to go, brave girl." She blinked, dazed but alert in seconds. "Are they here?" He nodded, taking her hand. "Yes, but we're not running this time." Marco loaded his weapon. "They want a war? We'll give them one." The headlights grew brighter. The night trembled with the sound of approaching death, and as the first shot shattered the quiet, Lucas whispered to Lena, "No more fear. Tonight, we fight back." The first bullet tore through the window, splintering glass across the dimly lit room. Marco dove behind the couch, dragging Lena down with him as Lucas reached for the sidearm hidden under his jacket. The gunfire outside intensified, a steady rhythm of chaos echoing through the hills. "They've surrounded us," Marco shouted, peering through the cracks. Shadows moved between the trees, dark figures in tactical gear advancing with lethal precision. Lucas's heart pounded, but his mind was cold, sharp, calculating. "They're professionals," he said. "Chen Wei hired ex-mercenaries." "Not hired," Marco snapped. "Owned." Lucas looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" Marco reloaded. "The weapons, the formation. I've seen this unit before. It's not Chen style. Someone inside your corporation must have provided intel. They knew exactly where we'd hide." Lena tugged on Lucas's sleeve. "The man on the bike, I heard him say something before we left the city. He said, 'When the fire burns, the crown falls.'" Lucas froze. That phrase, "the crown falls," was the codename of a secret internal project known only to his board of directors. A hidden contingency plan designed to replace leadership if he ever became a liability. "Damn it," he muttered. "It's not revenge. It's a corporate coup." Another explosion rattled the house, flames licking at the window frames. Smoke poured in. Marco grabbed Lena and pulled her toward the back exit. "We've got to move." They burst into the rain-soaked night, sprinting through the trees. Bullets hissed past, tearing bark from the trunks. Lucas fired twice over his shoulder, hitting one of the attackers. The man dropped wordlessly, efficient, silent, and replaced by two more. Marco led them down a narrow slope toward a ravine. "There's a maintenance tunnel from an old mining site about 200 meters east," he said between breaths. "We get there, we live." They stumbled through mud and roots, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. Lena clutched Lucas's hand, refusing to slow down. Her small face was streaked with dirt and fear, but her eyes burned with determination. As they neared the tunnel, headlights cut through the rain, a black SUV blocking their path. The engine roared, and the doors swung open. A tall figure stepped out, Chen Wei. His scar glistened under the rain like a mark of vengeance. "You should have stayed dead, Lucas," he said in Mandarin, calm, almost amused. Lucas aimed his gun, but Chen lifted his hand. "Go ahead. Pull the trigger. You'll die before you even touch me." Dozens of red laser sights appeared across the trees, all aimed at Lucas and Marco. Lena stepped forward before Lucas could react. Her small voice sliced through the night. "He saved me. You kill him, you become the monster they say you are." For a moment, one fragile, impossible moment. Chen's expression flickered. Then, from the ridge above, a helicopter's spotlight erupted across the clearing. The whine of blades split the rain. Marco shouted over the storm, "Back up! Our signal went through!" Lucas grabbed Lena's hand. "We're not done yet." As they sprinted for the helicopter's rope line, Chen's men opened fire, but Lucas wasn't running anymore. He turned, aimed, and finally fired the shot meant to end it all. The helicopter blades roared like thunder, slicing through sheets of rain as Lucas, Marco, and Lena clung to the rope line. The storm whipped at their bodies, wind tearing at clothes and skin. Below them, the forest burned, orange flames swallowing shadows where Chen Wei's men once stood. As Lucas hauled Lena into the open hatch, Marco covered their ascent with bursts of gunfire. Chen's men scattered below, their shouts fading into the storm. The helicopter tilted violently as Marco jumped aboard, slamming the door shut. Lucas turned to the pilot, a man with a black headset and steady eyes. "Get us out of here. North Ridge, full speed." The pilot nodded wordlessly, hands dancing over the controls. The aircraft lurched forward, skimming the edge of the storm. Lucas leaned back, breath ragged, adrenaline still surging. He glanced at Lena. She was shivering but alive. "You did good, kid," he said, voice hoarse. "You saved both of us again." Lena gave a small, weary smile. "You would have done the same." Marco, checking his rifle, added dryly, "He would have hired someone to do it." Lucas shot him a look. "Not this time." But before either could laugh, the helicopter suddenly banked left. Too hard, too sharp. "Hey!" Marco shouted. "What the hell are you doing?" The pilot didn't respond. His gloved hand moved to the console, flipping a hidden switch. Lucas's blood ran cold. "That's not a standard maneuver." Then he saw it. The faint glint of a tattoo under the pilot's wrist. A symbol he recognized. The crown falls. Marco. He's one of them. Lucas lunged forward, grabbing the pilot's shoulder. The man twisted, pulling a small pistol from beneath his flight vest. A single shot rang out, deafening in the cabin. Marco cried out, clutching his arm as blood sprayed across the interior. Lena screamed. Lucas wrestled with the pilot, both men fighting for control of the stick. The helicopter spiraled, alarms blaring. Through the spinning glass, lightning flashed, and for a split second Lucas saw another aircraft shadowing them in the distance. "A second chopper, Chen Wei," he hissed. The pilot smirked. "He sends his regards." Lucas slammed the man's head against the console hard. Sparks flew, smoke pouring from the panel. The aircraft dropped several meters before Lucas seized the controls. "Marco, get the auto-stabilizer." Marco, pale but conscious, crawled forward and hit the emergency override. The helicopter leveled. Barely. The traitor pilot slumped to the floor, unconscious or dead. "Chen's not giving up," Marco warned. "That second bird is tracking us." Lucas scanned the skies, a black silhouette chasing them through the lightning. "Then we end this now." He turned to Lena, voice steady but gentle. "You're going to crawl under that seat and stay there. No matter what happens," her lip trembled. "You're going to fight him, aren't you?" Lucas gave a small nod. "No, I'm going to finish him." The storm outside roared louder, lightning turning the clouds white. Behind them, Chen Wei's helicopter loomed closer, guns gleaming through the rain. Lucas gripped the controls tighter, eyes burning with resolve. "He took everything from me," he whispered. "Now I take back the sky." He pushed the throttle forward, and the two helicopters raced headlong into the heart of the storm. The storm raged above the clouds, lightning flashing across the sky as two helicopters danced in a deadly chase. Lucas's craft rocked violently, alarms screaming. Behind them, Chen Wei's chopper was closing in fast, gunfire slicing through the rain. "Hold steady," Marco shouted, bracing himself against the wall as sparks rained from the control panel. "I'm trying!" Lucas yelled, gripping the joystick so tight his knuckles turned white. "We're losing altitude." Lena, crouched under the seat, stared at the floor, trembling, until the voice of her late grandmother echoed in her head. "Courage is louder than fear." She crawled forward, her small hand tugging at Lucas's sleeve. "There's smoke on the left engine." Lucas's eyes darted to the gauge. "Good eye, kid." He flipped the emergency switch, rerouting fuel. The chopper steadied just enough for him to pull level, and suddenly Chen's aircraft loomed beside them, close enough that Lucas could see the man's cold smirk through the cockpit glass. Chen lifted a radio to his mouth. His voice crackled over Lucas's speakers. "You built empires on greed, Lucas. Now they burn with you." Lucas met his eyes. "No, they rise with her." He motioned to Lena. Then, in one swift move, Lucas banked hard left. The helicopters spun side by side, blades slicing the same storm. The two men locked eyes, one fueled by revenge, the other by redemption. Marco, bleeding but alive, saw it. a mountain ridge ahead. "Lucas, the storm's pushing us toward the ridge. If you don't pull up, "I'm not pulling up." "What?" Lucas yanked the stick down instead, diving beneath Chen's helicopter. Lightning illuminated the sky, and for a heartbeat, the two machines were perfectly aligned. Lucas hit the flare release. The burst of light and heat exploded outward, catching Chen's targeting system. The enemy helicopter veered off course. Too late to recover, Chen's eyes widened. His chopper clipped a lightning rod on the ridge and spun out of control. In one blinding flash, fire consumed the night. Silence followed. Lucas pulled the helicopter level again, breathing hard. The storm began to fade, sunlight piercing the clouds. Lena clung to his arm, her eyes wide with awe. "Is it over?" she whispered. Lucas nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's over." Marco chuckled weakly from the floor. "Remind me never to fly with you again." Lucas smiled faintly, glancing down at Lena. "You saved my life twice, little one. I think it's time the world heard your voice." The clouds broke apart, revealing the city below, alive, shining, waiting. Lucas knew what he had to do. Expose the corruption, rebuild what was destroyed, and make sure Lena's courage became a legacy. He took one last look at the sunrise and whispered, "They thought power was money. Turns out, it's truth." The helicopter soared toward the horizon, golden light flooding the cabin. If this story moved you, if you believe courage can come from the most unexpected hearts, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave your thoughts below. Every voice matters. Every truth deserves to rise above the storm.